Hey everybody, Marriage Moment is back. We took quite a long break there before Christmas. Really, we needed a break. We had lots of company and it was busy, and we needed to kind of map out where we're going for the next few seasons of this video series. We do these videos because we want just to give you a little tool to help invest in your marriage. We're not marriage counselors. We're definitely not marriage experts, but we do really value marriage and think it could be, if you do it right, one of the most fulfilling, exciting, happy, joy-filled things you do. It's also one of the most difficult things you do. So that's why we do this. We just want to help you on your journey. We want your marriage to be as good as it possibly can be. So what we're going to do is we are going to, for the next several weeks, look at these two books. One is called For Men Only. The other one is called For Women Only. These are familiar books to some of our people that will watch this because these books were written about 20 years ago. And it's based on a whole bunch of research that they did with thousands and thousands of couples. And over 2 decades, some of the research that they had done previously kind of became outdated because people change and our culture changes. And so they redid their research and they've reprinted these books with current research. Each one of these has sold, it says on the front, over 2 million copies. So they obviously are very helpful and they're very knowledgeable. We're going to start today with this book called For Men Only, and spoiler alert, she read it.
Yeah.
It literally says For Men Only.
I read it for research purposes.
Okay, you read it for research. This book is written for you guys, and I would highly suggest buying it just to have this. This is written for you so that you can understand as best as possible the inner workings, the things that motivate, and how your wife, how your spouse works, right? It really is a guide for a man to understanding a woman and how she thinks, how she looks at your relationship, how she views marriage, how she views you. And it's going to touch on several, I think, really, really important places of marriage that are difficult. Yep. And so we are going to start with this idea that, believe it or not, a man can understand his wife.
Yes, and I was telling you when we were talking about this that really I think just this little part that we're going to talk about today could actually transform a marriage. Just this little part.
This one chapter really is, it's big, the truth in it. Is it possible that people watching this, if there's a man watching this, is it truly possible for that man to come away with he can understand his wife?
Yes.
This goes against everything men have thought and told each other for thousands of years, that you will never understand your wife.
Yeah.
But this author, according to the research, seems to think, yes, you can.
I think there's always some little part of your wife that's always just going to be a mystery.
Yes.
But this will give you a huge part of your wife that you can understand and start to do just a few little things that could actually transform your marriage.
We are wired so differently. Our Creator made us different on purpose for a reason. We reflect different aspects of the character of God with just being a man and being a woman. And so we don't think alike, we don't feel alike, we don't behave alike, and that's a good thing. I'm not supposed to be like a girl, and you're not supposed to be like a boy. You are wired to be you, and I'm wired to be me. And those differences can, and usually do, cause conflict or friction or tension in a marriage.
Yes.
And so this will help us kind of to understand why she feels that way, why she thinks that way.
Yeah.
So talk to us. What do we need to know today?
So recently you did a wedding for a young couple in our church.
Yep.
And so you said the vows, where they had to repeat their vows. And in our vows we say, I do. And so he talks about this in the very beginning of the book, that men need to understand that their wife, for the rest of their life, no matter how you act or what you do or what seems logical, a wife is always asking, does he? Do you really, really love me?
5 years later. 10 years later.
10.
32 years later.
32 years.
Your wife is still wondering if that commitment you made, however long ago it was, is still true for you. Do you still take her? Do you still love her? Do you still unconditionally promise to take care of her?
Yeah.
That's crazy, because in a man's mind, most men would say, well, I told you 32 years ago I did. That means I'm going to.
And I married you, and I pursued you, and I go to work every day to help support you.
Right. Right.
Yes, that's all true, and that's logical to you.
Right. It makes sense to a man.
But for a woman, it's so different, and we just have always got that in our mind. That does he still really love me? Is he still going to stick around? Yeah. So that's a huge piece of the puzzle of the mystery of a wife.
She will always wonder. Wow.
Yeah. So we have to understand, I think men, it would help them so much to understand that when something happens or a woman gets upset, and we push our man away, what we're really wanting is for the man to come towards us and give some reassurance.
You understand how crazy that sounds to a
I
man,
know.
that you're pushing us away, and yet you want us to draw you near.
Yeah, and we might even be acting crazy if it's big enough and it's big enough of a trigger for us emotionally. We probably don't seem real lovable. But what we're screaming out for is, please tell me that you still love me and that you do still want to be with me.
Wow.
I know it's crazy.
It is crazy.
So I think it helps for a man to understand when a woman is giving off those confusing behaviors, pushing him away. It's huge red warning lights, just like a light in your car, that something is going on. And the biggest thing that's going on for your wife is she's not feeling confident about her man's love. That's really at the root.
And there may be no reason for you to feel unconfident.
Right.
It might not have been anything the man has done. It's just the way you're wired. You're wired emotionally. We're wired logically.
Right.
And so it doesn't necessarily mean, when you feel like that, it doesn't necessarily mean, although usually it does, that I've done something dumb. It just means that you are in a place where you need to be reassured.
Right. And there are several triggers. He talks about this in the book. He tells about triggers that can set this off for a woman. One of them is conflict. When something is being disagreed about or something has happened and you're in conflict, that automatically triggers that feeling for a woman. When you withdraw, want to go to your man cave, or you need some time with men, and I automatically begin to start thinking, you don't want to be with me, you want to get away from me. I need that reassurance. If there's silence, if we're just not talking, and we've talked about this before between us, if we're not okay,
It's not okay.
nothing is okay.
Right.
And that's so true for a woman. Nothing in the world is okay if we're not okay. So when there's silence, that just automatically sets off that trigger of, do you still love me? And then when a wife's emotional bank account is completely empty, that's just like putting gas in your car. Things that you're doing to show that you love her, if that bank account becomes really empty, it triggers that feeling.
So it's good for the men to just keep in mind those triggers, that when those triggers happen in the back of our minds, we need to think, okay, even though this is a conflict, she still needs to be reassured that I love her. Even though I'm just wanting to get away and get out and play golf or go be with the guys for a couple hours, even though that's a very innocent thing, she still needs to be reassured. I'm just going just to hang out. It's nothing to do with you. I love you. I want to be with you, and I'll see you when I'm done.
Right.
When the whole silence thing enters in, let that kick in, that your wife just needs you to say something to her. And what was that last one? When your emotional bank account is low?
When we're low.
We don't always know that, so it's helpful
know.
when you tell us.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't realize that either.
Sure.
Okay, so I think it would help to help men understand this. Just like a man is always in the back of their mind thinking about providing for his family.
Yeah, I
because
think
that's big.
I think that's true and universally true for men, that we want to, it's just wired in us, we have to provide for you.
Yeah.
And maybe that means a job or a career, but that also means a home, and it means the material stuff we have to live. It means a retirement. It just means there's something in us men that we are driven to provide for the
God-
people we love.
God made you
God
that
put
way.
that in us. Yeah, but
And
it's
in-
not the same for you.
Right. But in the same way, a woman is always, we always have that in the back of our mind. Does he really love me? Is he really going to stay? Is he going to stay with me and provide for me?
And a man, in a man's mind, we're thinking, well, because I'm providing, she should know.
Yes.
Because I'm going to work every day, she should know that I love her, that I'm doing this for our family. But that doesn't always translate.
Right.
It makes sense to us that we should feel like
That's
that.
logical.
It's logical. But it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't compute emotionally for us, and we can work on that. I think women can work on, I try really hard to let you know, thank you so much for working hard for us, and I love our life together. Sometimes I just send you a text or leave you a note that I just love our life, and I love that you do things for me. And it's important for women to do that, but that's on another
That's
page.
a different talk. Yeah.
So let's say this again.
Okay.
A wife's feelings do not fit a man's logic.
Right.
So men are logical, women are emotional. That really helps to remember that little tidbit of information.
And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. And when you try to make it make sense, it just makes you frustrated. So
Yeah.
just embrace the tension that it's never going to make sense to you guys, and that's
Right.
okay. Let it be a mystery.
And that's because we're so different.
Right.
Yeah. So I do want to add this one little thing before we give the 2 steps, the 2 things that he gives in the book that a man could start doing to just transform his marriage. So one little thing, and this because this was true for us, I was a woman with a broken heart when we married, and it was from my dad. He broke my heart when he left, and so I felt I had that abandoned feeling that followed me for a really long time. And I've shared this before that I had to let God heal that for me, and I think he used you to help heal that, and some other people in my life helped begin that healing process, but God actually did that for me. But you need to understand, if you have a wife that has entered the marriage or at some point in the marriage has experienced a broken heart, not necessarily from you, but from someone in their life, then it's an even deeper trigger for that woman.
When I do weddings, it's one of the things we always talk about is you are both coming to this marriage with some baggage, and if you haven't processed that, dealt with it, it's going to show up in your marriage and it's going to shock you the way it does. So if you're not married and watching this, but you're going to get married, one of the best things you could do is invest in some pre-marriage counseling.
Yes.
It's super helpful.
Yeah. So let's just get to what a man can do.
Okay.
If he's listened to all this and he's starting to process, which this is probably not going to change overnight.
Right.
It's something that you kind of have to process and really think about. And if you're really serious, get the audiobook or get the Kindle edition or get this book. They're written by Shanti and Jeff Feldhahn. I don't think we said that. So he gives 2 things. This is easy. 2 things that a man can do to really help their wife. So the first one, and this is so huge, and I remember me when we read this, I think we talked about it at some point, and it has helped so much in our marriage, that you reassure often.
Reassure your wife often. What does that look like?
Well, for us, when it first began for us, it meant that I needed you when I was upset or even when I was pushing you away. I told you, I need you to put your arm around me and tell me I'm okay. We're okay. We may need to work some things out. We may need to figure some things out and talk, but we're okay, and you're going to be okay. And even now in our marriage, sometimes I'll send you a text. I did this recently, that I love our life, and your response to me was, "That's good because you're stuck with me."
You don't get a choice.
That little sentence was huge reassurance to me, because that was what my dad did. He left. And so you saying that I'm stuck with you, that goes straight to my heart. So just, it's your words. It's little things that you do or say, texting me during the workday, letting me know if you're having a hard time and you need to withdraw a little bit and have some guy time or just go chop wood or whatever you're gonna do, that we're okay. You're telling me we're okay. I just need some time.
Yeah. Reassure her often.
That's huge.
You can start that today. Easy. Simple.
Easily.
Send a text.
Yes, even when it seems like they don't need it, we do need it.
What's the second one?
The second one is, and this is so great because it's almost Valentine's Day.
Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Today is Galentine's Day if you're a fan of Parks and Rec, but tomorrow is Valentine's Day.
So the second step, the thing you can do is to continue to pursue your wife. And
Even after we're married?
and even after there's kids, you've been married
Really?
for 32 years, you still need to have date night often, and you still need to send flowers or candy on Valentine's, or send little texts and little notes, leave little notes every once in a while, even if it's not Valentine's Day. You don't let those things go, because pursuing your wife is giving another message that it's reassurance. You're
And I
mine.
still do.
You're my girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that's helpful.
I do too.
Next week, we're going to go for women only. I'm going to read the first couple chapters of For Women Only. We'll bring that to you. Hope that's helpful. Those are some practical things we can start to do today. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. It really helps us if you like and subscribe. And if you leave a comment, it really helps us know that we're doing a good job, that we're helping, that we're meeting a need. And it also helps the stupid YouTube algorithm. So thanks for taking the time to watch this. We appreciate it. Have a great evening. Bye.